first of all, like I said, thank you for being here and taking your time to sit down with us and talk about these issues.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you guys for having me.
Of course.
Yeah. What we traditionally do is we often ask who we're interviewing to tell us like their name and kind of what office they're holding, just that we can get that for the camera.
Yeah, so, and y'all want me to look at you guys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my name is Katrina Callsen. It's spelled Katrina Callsen, and I am in the House of Delegates, so I'm a Delegate Katrina Callsen, serving the 54th District.
Great.
That's good. How long have you been serving?
So I am finishing up my first term, so 2 years. I was elected in 2023.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Go.
You wanna go next?
No, you
No.
go.
Okay. One of the things we were wondering is what are some past offices as well that you've held, and when did you hold them?
Yeah, so I was on the Albemarle County School Board. I was a teacher. I actually started everything as a teacher. I did Teach for America.
Wow.
I went to law school at UVA Law. I was deputy city attorney for Charlottesville. And then I was on the Albemarle County School Board, where I eventually was the chair. And I actually resigned while I was chair to run for the House of Delegates seat that I am currently holding. And I've had a good first term there. I've had a lot of success. There were 34 freshmen that were elected in 2023. It's the largest class ever. And out of those 34 freshmen, I passed more laws both my first year and my second year. So I got voted Freshman Legislator of the Year. So I'm working hard.
Yeah.
All that school board experience helped.
Yeah, no, sorry, I was just going to ask, how do you feel that all those past experiences shape you as a legislator?
Absolutely, they helped me. One, having a legal background, so being able to read the laws, because there's actually quite a few people who are elected who they're still figuring out like how to pull up laws and read them, which is fine. We need people from all different backgrounds, but being a lawyer helped me, and then school board helped immensely because I've gotten a lot of experience listening to people. I have moderated public comments. I did that for 2 years. I know what it looks like to be in a leadership position during uncertain times. I was there during the pandemic, and so I think it helped me be better at consensus building when I was up there.
Absolutely.
That's great. Yeah. Speaking of laws, we were wondering what laws have you helped pass or block during your time as delegate regarding education policy in Virginia?
Yeah.
A highlight reel, anything
Yeah.
memorable.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of interesting. I actually am not on the education committee, even though I'm
Okay.
a former teacher and was on school board,
Yeah.
because there are so few lawyers right now in the General Assembly that they have put me on all the legal committees. So I'm on courts, I'm on criminal courts, I've picked judges, so I don't get to like really get in the weeds with educational policy. But that being said, I had a few bills related to it. So I had a huge bill. My first year is $26 million for foster care prevention. So it's expanding services for youth and children to try to prevent them from getting into foster care. So I think that touches on education. And there was a specific education piece around allowing those in foster care to stay in their current school and not have to move schools as they shift through foster care. And then this year, I had a bill that I call it my baby bill. I'm super excited about it. It is about math. It's auto enrollment in advanced mathematics, so making it for middle school. So it doesn't affect you guys here, but for middle school, making it so that one, there's a clear policy for how students are put into advanced math, and two, if you score in the top quartile of a standardized test, you would automatically be enrolled to be opt-out versus fight to get in.
Yeah, that's great, because I remember I've talked with a lot of people, the 6th grade math you put in determines so much about exactly what happens. Like, I know people who because they were like just outside of that, or they didn't have a good relationship with the teacher or whatever, they were put in math 6 rather than like the compacted curriculum one, and now they only get through pre-calc.
So that's exactly it. It's a short bill, but part of it is notification to families so that people just even know like what you choose in 6th, 7th grade can actually have a really big impact on what options you have available in high school and then beyond high school. So letting people know early and just letting them know what classes are available. A lot of times you don't even know what classes are available. So
Absolutely.
I'm excited by that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very important to you, especially. He's in Calculus 3 right now. So
Okay, so you got started when you were like first grade.
Yeah. We want to kind of talk to you about as you know in the news, there have been certain counties in Virginia who have had their funded and threatened by President Trump. And that's a huge issue for a lot of counties. What are your thoughts on this, and how would you, how do Virginia Democrats plan to respond to this, these threats?
Yeah, so there's a lot packaged in that question.
Yeah.
There has been a lot of chaos coming from the federal government. It's been really hard to respond on the state level, but we're up for the task. So this last year, well, I'm speaking in session years. It's actually this year. It was just 6 months ago or 7 months ago. So this year, we had a great budget. We actually had record funding for our public schools, including finally fully funding what are called our support staff positions. I really don't want to get too much in the weeds. I need to stick higher level. But we basically restored funding that we had removed in 2008, which is when we stripped a lot of funding because of the recession. So we restored it this year. It took that long to get that money back. So fully funded, all of our SOQ positions, support staff positions, and got teacher raises, got all of that stuff. Now, then enters the chaos that's coming from Washington, D.C. No matter where you are in the political spectrum, it is just really hard to legislate and govern when things are being rapidly switched around and pulled. Funding might be there, might be gone the next week. You can't budget like that. So you're very right. It's a spot-on question with not a great answer, in that we're potentially having a special session. So we're going to go back to Richmond 2 weeks from now. We're going to talk about any ways that we can adjust our budget to kind of account for shortfalls. But schools, I will say, are not the highest ticket item that I've heard. The main issue that legislators are talking about right now is Medicaid, the loss of Medicaid funding and SNAP benefits. So that's where the biggest chunk is, and that's the hardest gap to fill. So that's been the main conversation. We haven't gotten to schools.
It's huge, yeah.
Sorry, and kind of on that topic of funding, what would you say you were talking about how that's kind of the highest ticket item that you're hearing. Are there any other kind of murmurs you're hearing about the funding and where things might be headed that you feel like you can speak on?
By and large, far away. I don't even know the saying there. I think I messed that up. I think I just said it all in a jumble. But it's all about Medicaid, because Medicaid's a huge shortfall, and we can't make it. We can't come up with the deficit. So that's the main conversation that I would hear, or that I have been hearing. The other, if you're just asking kind of what I think top of line issues coming up this session would be, it's going to be data centers, energy production because of AI, and the way Virginia works. There's a lot of conversations here around energy. Again, education. The biggest education bill, there's one that will probably come back up, I know it's going to come back up, is a 1% sales tax to fund school construction. Mm-hmm. It has passed the General Assembly for the last 2 years. It actually had 2/3 of the vote, so it had Democrats and Republicans, and it was vetoed. It's the one bill that we tried to overturn the governor's veto. So that I am sure is going to be coming back, because there's so many school districts, and you guys have probably experienced it in your own time through Albemarle public schools, that need new schools, and they're just so hard to fund. You really have to do a referendum or a small tax increase in order to fund school construction. You guys are lucky though, because you have Center 2 coming right now.
Yeah, so then there's a lot at stake for the state legislature, especially on what happens in this upcoming governor's election, right? Yeah,
and if you guys don't mind giving me 2 minutes to do a quick analogy, I think it helps. So if you think about government as a car, so local government is the tires. It is where the rubber meets the road. It is where you feel all the heat, all the friction, every hurdle, every bump you take, you feel it very personally. And I know that because I used to serve as school board, so I know very much what it's like to be right on the road. Federal government, we were just talking about federal government. I consider federal government, in our metaphorical car, as a passenger. And there can be all different types of passengers. There can be a helpful co-pilot who's helping you map where you want to go. There can be someone who's sleeping, so they're not even paying attention. Or they can be, and I'm going to let people draw their own conclusions, but they can be like a screaming toddler in the back seat. So that's not to say that they're not impactful, because if you've ever driven, which you guys probably haven't, but if you have siblings, but if you've ever been in the car with a screaming toddler, they absolutely can impact how you get to your destination. You might have to do detours, you might have to pull up the road, you might have to feed them snacks to make them happy, but ultimately you can still get to where you need to go. General Assembly, which is what I serve in the House, and there's also the Senate. We're the engine. It is complicated. There's 140 of us, all 100 House of Delegate members, so that's what I am. All 100 of us are on the ballot this year. And it's really important that you select the right one, because ultimately everything that's done by the governor, the driver, it has to have a working engine in order to get there. So when Abigail Spanberger or Winsome Earl Sears are talking about healthcare policy, what they want to do in schools, where they want to put the money for schools, all of that is ultimately done through laws that are passed by the General Assembly, and we have to get along and work together. And then there's the driver, which is the gubernatorial race. I wish I could say that it's all of y'all, or that everyone's a driver, everyone who votes is a driver, but there's 8 million plus Virginians. So this is the year that we select the driver. And so that's happening this year. It happens every 4 years. It's more important than ever to stay involved. And then the Attorney General, I have a part for him too in the metaphor. The Attorney General is like the traffic engineer. And so when you have a destination in mind, he's the one, or yeah, it's going to be a guy no matter what, he's the one that can either put up roadblocks, put up traffic stops, put up speed bumps, or you can give you a 60-mile-per-hour speed limit, and you're going to get to where you want to go in the end. And so there is a place for everyone who is of voting age and who is a Virginian. There is a place in the metaphor for us, which is that it's our car. So this is the year that we're selecting so many pieces of our car, and it's really important to build a car that not only works for you, but that is driving in the direction you want to go. And so for school funding, depending on your party politics, I know where I want to go. I don't know how nonpartisan this is in this, but I'm very strongly supportive of public schools, and I want to make sure that we're driving somewhere that's going to have good funding for our teachers, good support for our students, and so this is the year to pick those pieces.
Absolutely.
Thank you for dealing with my metaphor.
No, of course,
No,
that's great.
that's a great analogy, I think. Want me to go?
I can. Yeah, so I think we've already touched on this a little bit, but speaking of educational policy, the cell phone policy, top of everyone's minds. Now, these first couple weeks, everyone has been, phones. What?
I know, I got mine right there.
Yeah, so, and obviously that they're whether we like it or not, they're a big part of what life has become. And having that not in school is, for better or worse, a big drastic difference. So, our question for you is, what is your stance on phones in schools, and how do you think they have a role, and also how restrictive should school policies be? Because the law, I believe if I'm remembering correctly, it says there is a bit in there about as deemed appropriate for age. So in a high school, how do you feel that should look? Okay,
so I think the policies around cell phone use should be locality driven. So talking about the local government, the way that law is written is that ultimately it is up to your local school board to decide what that policy looks like. And I think that school boards and locality should really look at what their constituent base wants, because the whole issue with statewide legislation is that how we feel here in Albemarle might be very different than how they feel in more rural areas, might be very different than how they feel in Fairfax. So I would push it to school boards and say that more student voice would probably be important. I'm happy to share what it looked like at the state level, which is there were actually many legislators who didn't want to touch the legislation at all, because we actually didn't need to write any law at all, and the school boards already have the ability to ban cell phones if they wanted to ban them, to set policies in place for their use. They could have already done that. There was nothing that needed to be done at the state level to make that the case. That being said, there's a lot of polling. There's been a lot of input from citizens, and I remember, I don't have a thing to point to, but I remember being told that 80% of parents and families actually support cell phone bans in schools, which is why the governor ultimately, on his own, did an executive order that said cell phones were going to be banned in schools, and that school boards needed to come up with policies to make that happen. So it's a long-winded way of saying that I don't think at the state level there's going to be legislation, never say never, but I don't think there's going to be any further legislation to dictate how that happens. I think it is really incumbent on you guys to go talk to your school board members and go to meetings if you really want to have some input in what that looks like for your school. Because I don't know how Albemarle is doing it. I'd be happy to hear from you guys what they've told you.
Just to clarify, what our school has been telling us is that it's a law that passed the assembly.
Yes, because what we've heard, my interpretation of it was there was Executive Order 33, and then legislature was passed to support
That's
that.
what our school's been saying.
Yes, yeah. So sorry, there is a law that supports it, but the law says, I'm assuming you pulled it up, right?
Yeah.
So the law says that school boards have to put policies in place that make it happen, and right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It does.
So they're going to be the one that comes up with it.
Great.
And I've heard different things.
That's our bell.
That's lunch bell. Yeah.
I'm getting the wrong answer.
There's gonna be another one. Okay.
So I can tell you, so that's what happened at the state level. The governor made the executive order. You're right. I'm sorry. It's been, it's like, seems like a year ago. So then we had in the caucus, we had a discussion about the bill, and there were people who raised their hand. Actually, people who had been on school boards who said that they weren't supportive of the bill. I was one of those just because, so I guess a long-winded way of saying, I was one of the ones that wasn't in support of the bill, not because I don't in theory like the bill, it's because you don't need the bill to do what it's like grandstanding. It's political messaging versus reality. School boards can already do that without you signing a bill that says that they need to come up with a policy to ban cell phones. I've heard different districts are doing it very differently, so I guess I'm making clear to y'all that I'm not quite sure how everyone's doing it. I've heard ones that say like you can't ever even bring your phone to school. I've heard ones that say you need to put it in a locker. I've heard parents, I know there's exceptions, so some schools have broader exceptions for when you are allowed them, because you are allowed exceptions, right, if you need them for like health.
They prefer us to use the school front office phone here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're more on the more restrictive end, which is the way they've been interpreting it is no cell phones at all. They've really taken the bell to bell to mean like start of the school day to the end of the school day, no lunch, no transition periods, which is kind of different from how they did it last school year.
This is where I'm going to establish myself as like an old candidate, because I'm just going to have to say, I think that's one where there was some pretty robust polling to say that in the long run, not having cell phones in schools is beneficial for academic learning and mental health. So if push came to shove right now, that's where I'd land.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you guys feel differently, go yell at your school board members, because I've been there, I've had to take it, they can take it. Go tell them how you feel, and they can try to lighten up the policy. If it's really not working, if you're finding places where you're like, this is like a danger that I don't have my cell phone, then go talk to them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good message.
Yeah.
Guys, so there's gonna be 2 more buzzers. What are they called?
Buzzers.
Buzzers.
Yeah.
In the next like 2 minutes.
Okay.
So can we? Because some people need to leave, but that door's locked.
Okay.
So we're just gonna take like a small break
Quick pause
for 2 minutes.
Let
Let the bells ring. If you guys need to leave, you can go through that door. No, Olivia.
Okay. Sorry, did you lock us in? That door is locked.
I didn't lock you in. I don't know who locked you in.
Yeah.
We're stuck!
That may be the library people.
Around 5 minutes before we gotta.
Yeah, how much is left?
Oh, okay. If you guys have to go in 5 minutes, then we
If it's
got
5 minutes, let's just go.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Andrew, mind if I?
Yeah, you want to do.
y'all can
6.
like give me the wrap up
Yeah.
too if I'm talking to
No,
you.
it's fine. We just gotta speed run. Okay, so right now, state governments outside of education, obviously, like the big issue is the mid-decade congressional redistricting, the gerrymandering fights in Texas and California.
Yes.
Which is obviously huge deal implications for the federal government and how everything goes there, but a lot of that is down to the state level of how those maps are drawn. So if such an effort were launched by House Democrats, if like that fight kind of came here, would you support it, and why or why not?
It is too early for me to say whether I would support it or not support it. The first conversation I had about that was actually yesterday. Abigail Spanberger is the only one who's given any public statement on how she feels, and she is not supportive of redistricting. I will say I would need to even understand the legal landscape, because my understanding is that under the Virginia Constitution right now, the way that we would have to do it, it would take 4 years to even do the redistricting, and every census year, so every 10 years, we already do a redistricting, and we already did it in 2021, so even with a push, it would put us 2 years shy of when we would already be doing it anyway, so it's not like it would somehow speed it way up. So too early for me to say an answer. That is, you are right, that is a rapidly evolving issue, and I've heard more and more about it. Someone just approached me about it yesterday who was very supportive of we should redistrict as well. I do not know enough about it to have a clear answer.
That's great, thank you.
Yeah.
Andrew?
One of the top issues, I read this on your campaign website as well, is gun violence, and especially right now in recent news, as you saw in Minneapolis. That was the city, right?
Yeah.
I know it was in Minnesota, I just didn't know which
Minneapolis.
city. Recently, ACPS announced that they were going to put weapon screeners in all of their high schools. Actually, that's going to be put in next Tuesday. What would you do to prevent gun violence in like Virginia schools, and do you believe that weapons detectors are a helpful step?
Okay, that's a two-part question.
Yeah.
Starting with
Sorry.
the first, that's fine.
Yeah.
Starting with the first part, there's a lot that we can do to boost gun safety. The most important thing is responsible gun ownership. So the majority of gun-related deaths for children are actually from suicide, and it's access to guns that they shouldn't have otherwise been exposed to. So it's not about taking guns away from people, it's about if you have a gun, it needs to be in a lock. It needs to be locked and away from kids. And if you don't do that, then you need to face sanctions or punishment because you are not taking care of your gun correctly. There's also ways to go about making it so that if you have an unsecured gun in a car, that's one of the primary places that guns are stolen. A lot of guns that are used in the commission of crimes are actually stolen because people don't want them traced. You can have stronger red flag laws, you can have stronger background checks. I could talk probably about gun safety for a good chunk of time. It's hard to get gun legislation passed. I had a bill myself that was around keeping guns off of college campuses. It was actually related to the shooting that happened at UVA, which I think we might be one day past the anniversary of, or not anniversary, but like when it happened. Not 1 year past, but like the date, the remembrance date. So I've worked with police chiefs, university police chiefs, to make that bill because there's actually this gap right now on college campuses because adults are allowed to own guns. Even though college campuses ban guns, they say you cannot have guns on campuses. If you actually see someone with a gun, there's very little you can do because police cannot come and take the gun. And so in the case of UVA, you might actually have information that someone has guns in their room and you cannot go and claim those guns. It's actually like the equivalent of having a hot pot or like some kind of like infraction. And usually you can have, sometimes they send student representatives to go check. Like your hall monitor is going to be like, okay, let me. So that was a law that I tried to fix. It actually did pick up, it varies, but at some point it had some Republican votes with it and it got vetoed. So a lot to do there. And it is not always extreme measures. It is pretty common sense, responsible gun ownership to make it so that we're safer. And then, what was the second part of your question? Do you mind reading the very end?
It was, do you believe, like, if weapons detectors are a helpful step for schools?
You know, I always struggle because I always talk too much. I'm going to give you the real answer. I would need to see the data on that because when I was on school board, I remember them telling us that metal detectors in particular weren't a super effective safety measure just because there's so many doors. I think they might have used Albemarle as an example. There's like 60 something different door entrances. So unless you put a metal detector and someone manning the metal detector to make sure that someone goes through it, it's actually a really hard safety measure to implement. Added to the fact that if someone has malicious intent and wants to bring a gun, like you can go through the window, so metal detectors, where they do help, which is valid, is that they help with impressions and perception of safety. And so if students are feeling unsafe in school, then metal detectors help people feel safer. And so for that, there is a benefit there. That's a very nuanced discussion of what it looks like, but it helps people feel safer. The data doesn't necessarily support that it makes people safer, and that's just a balancing act. So if the school board's gone with it, I'm supportive of them having it. I'd be very curious how you guys feel and if you feel better about having them there. But that's like the kind of nuanced answer.
Thank you. I think, especially since you have to go, I think that's all we have for you today.
Yeah.
Thank
That's
you.
everything.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And sorry that we ramble a little bit sometimes.
No.
but
I talked a lot, and I hope that was helpful.
It's okay. Yeah, it was.
Cut it
Thank
out
you very
however you
much.
want. Well, don't cut it.